Get ready, because we're diving into a world where magic is less about like shimmering robes and mythical beasts and more about practical everyday applications. We're talking about Lon Milo DuQuette's Low Magic. We've got excerpts from the book itself, personal anecdotes, a touch of history, philosophy, and maybe even a few stories that'll make you raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, what's so fascinating about DuQuette's approach is that he blends humor and a down-to-earth practicality with his magic.
Yeah.
He walks us through his experiences in a way that really makes you rethink what magic could be.
The book is structured as a blend of personal stories and explanations of magical practices, and it definitely keeps you entertained. But what struck me was DuQuette's perspective on magic as something you weave into your life, not just something you read about. Especially when you learn about his family history, talk about a magical lineage. And then there are his experiences with rituals and spirits.
Hmm.
Some are funny, some are a little spooky, and all of them make you think.
And that's what we're going to explore today. How DuQuette's family history and personal experiences shaped his unique approach to magic. And who knows, maybe we'll uncover some hints about how you might find a bit of magic hidden in your own family tree.
Okay, before we get started, I'm curious. What pops into your mind when you hear the word magic? Hold on to that thought as we unpack what low magic is all about, because it might not be what you expect.
DuQuette kicks things off by poking a little fun at traditional high magic, the kind of ceremonial magic Eliphas Levi describes in Dogma and Rituals of High Magic. Levi presents this very scholarly, almost academic approach to magic, whereas DuQuette is all about getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's where he draws a really important distinction. He wants to set the record straight about low magic. It's not about selling your soul or summoning demons to do your bidding.
Exactly. DuQuette sees low magic as about causing change in accordance with your will, and he does that through rituals and working with spiritual forces. He's not talking about fleeting moments of enchantment. He's talking about a continuous practice that becomes part of your everyday life.
And intention is key here. It's not just about going through the motions of a ritual. It's about the energy and focus you bring to it. DuQuette even talks about his skepticism towards traditional Christian views on heaven and hell, emphasizing his belief in a more universal, supreme consciousness.
What's interesting is that DuQuette's skepticism isn't about rejecting spirituality altogether. It's about questioning dogma and finding a personal connection to something greater than himself. It's about looking beyond the surface level of religious teachings to find the deeper, universal truths that resonate with him.
That makes me think about how he talks about the formula Solomon. He presents King Solomon as the quintessential magician, drawing on both biblical and extra-biblical stories to illustrate his point. What's the significance of Solomon in all of this?
Well, think of Solomon as the archetypal magician who understood how to tap into and direct spiritual forces. The formula of Solomon is all about aligning yourself with divine consciousness, that supreme consciousness DuQuette keeps referring to. It's about directing the flow of energy upwards, not to make deals with spirits, but to utilize those forces for good.
And that's where the low in low magic comes in.
Yeah.
It's not about lowering your morals. It's about grounding your practice, the everyday, the tangible. It's about recognizing that magic isn't just something you read about in ancient texts. It's something you can experience in your own life.
Exactly. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Now, DuQuette tells this great story about wanting to take a girl named Linda Kaufman to the movies when he was a kid that perfectly illustrates this idea of low magic in action.
Okay, I got to hear this one.
So DuQuette had a huge crush on Linda and spent months visualizing this perfect date with her. Everything from what they'd wear to how they would sit in the theater.
Sounds like a typical teenage daydream. Where's the magic in that?
Well, get this. It all happened almost exactly as he imagined it. The date, the clothes, the seating arrangement, it all came true, seemingly out of thin air.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. So he's saying that just by visualizing something, he made it happen.
He connects this story to the law of attraction, this idea that what you focus on, you attract. But more than that, it demonstrates how powerful belief can be in shaping our reality. It's a simple story with a profound message. Even without any elaborate rituals, we all have the potential to influence our lives through intention and visualization.
That's a great example of how DuQuette takes these seemingly mundane experiences and reveals the hidden magic within them. It makes you wonder what other magical moments we might be missing in our own lives.
And speaking of hidden magic, things get really interesting when we start exploring DuQuette's family history. His mother, by his own account, was quite a character. She had psychic abilities, but also some manipulative tendencies that DuQuette refers to as darker magic.
So he's acknowledging that magic can be used for both good and bad, that it's not just about rainbows and unicorns.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is how DuQuette uses humor to process these complex experiences with his mother. He even shares excerpts from the eulogy he gave at her funeral. And even in those moments of grief, there's this undercurrent of wit and self-awareness that's both touching and hilarious.
It sounds like he had a complicated relationship with his mother, to say the least.
It was definitely a challenging dynamic. And then there's the story about DuQuette's paternal grandmother and the unsettling rumors of witchcraft in his bloodline. His mother vehemently denied these stories, but they clearly left an imprint on DuQuette.
So how does he reconcile these family stories with his own practice of magic? Does he believe he inherited some kind of magical ability?
It's not as simple as that. DuQuette offers a more nuanced perspective on magical lineage. He doesn't blindly accept these stories, but he doesn't dismiss them either. He recognizes that every family has its own unique magic, for better or worse, and that these stories, whether true or not, can shape our beliefs and behaviors.
I like that he's not presenting himself as some kind of chosen one, destined for greatness because of his family history. He's acknowledging the influence of his past, but also taking ownership of his own path.
Exactly. And it's not just his mother who played a role in his magical development. DuQuette also learned a lot from his father, who shared what he called magical secrets with him. These weren't elaborate rituals or spells, they were more like practical tips and tricks for navigating life.
Like what?
Well, for example, his father taught him the importance of his name, emphasizing that it held a certain power. And he shared a technique for stopping nightmares that involved visualizing a protective barrier around his bed. These seemingly ordinary interactions became powerful lessons in low magic, demonstrating how magic can be woven into everyday life.
It's a great reminder that magic isn't always about grand gestures and mystical pronouncements. Sometimes it's about the small, seemingly insignificant things we do and say that can have a profound impact.
And those small things can have a ripple effect, influencing not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us.
Speaking of influence, DuQuette talks about his experience creating the tarot of ceremonial magic and how he went about charging the deck with magical energy.
This is where we start to see DuQuette's meticulous approach to magic. He describes this incredibly detailed ritual that involved using Enochian magic to invoke both day and night spirits.
Enochian magic. Can you explain that a bit more? I'm not familiar with that system.
Sure, Enochian magic is a system of ceremonial magic based on the language supposedly revealed to John Dee and Edward Kelly by angels in the 16th century. It's known for its complex system of correspondences and its powerful invocations.
So DuQuette used the system to charge his tarot deck.
Yes, he performed this elaborate 48-hour ritual that involved conjuring specific spirits associated with each card in the deck. He describes it as an exhausting but exhilarating experience. There's even a funny anecdote about him taking a break in the middle of all this to enjoy a guacamole feast.
Wait, he's conjuring spirits while eating guacamole?
He's got a great sense of humor about the whole process. He even jokes that he forgot to include a spell to boost the deck's sales.
I love how he balances this meticulous, almost scholarly approach to magic with these moments of humor and self-deprecation. It makes him seem more human, more relatable. It makes me want to keep listening.
And that's what makes DuQuette such a compelling writer. He doesn't shy away from those moments of imperfection or the times when things don't go according to plan. It's refreshing and makes his experiences all the more believable.
Speaking of things not going according to plan, DuQuette tells this incredible story about a Midsummer Night's curse that was cast on one of his lodge brothers.
It all started with a misunderstanding involving medication. DuQuette's lodge brother, S.A., accidentally offended this filmmaker named F.F., who, as it turned out, was also a practicing magician.
Oh, this is going to be good. What happened?
Well, F.F. was convinced that S.A. had tampered with his luggage, and in retaliation, he cast a full-blown magical curse on him.
No way. So what kind of curse are we talking about here? Was it like a voodoo doll or something?
Not exactly. F.F. was obsessed with Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, and even wrote the curse on stationery decorated with fairies from the play. He seemed to be channeling the play's themes of love, illusion, and mistaken identity in his curse.
That's so bizarre. So how did DuQuette handle this situation? Did he take the curse seriously?
He definitely recognized the potential harm that a magically empowered curse could cause, but he also saw the humor in the situation. He connected the curse to the idea of bewitched eyes, like FF wasn't seeing the situation clearly, blinded by his anger and paranoia.
So how did he go about lifting the curse?
Naturally, he devised a ritual inspired by A Midsummer Night's Dream itself to counteract the curse. He used love and idleness, the magical flower from the play that causes people to fall in and out of love, and Diane's bud, which represents chastity and protection. He even went to the Huntington Library to find authentic specimens of these plants.
Wow, talk about going the extra mile.
He's all about attention to detail. And to top it all off, he incorporated specific Shakespearean quotes into his invocation to add an extra layer of power to the ritual. The whole thing sounds like a scene straight out of a magical comedy, but it also highlights DuQuette's creative approach to problem solving.
It's like he's taking this ancient wisdom and applying it to modern-day dilemmas in a way that's both effective and entertaining.
Yeah,
He's not afraid to think outside the box and find inspiration in unexpected places.
exactly. And that willingness to experiment and adapt is a hallmark of his approach to low magic. He's not bound by rigid rules or dogma. He's constantly exploring new ways to integrate magic into his life.
That's a great segue into our next topic. Astral projection. DuQuette talks about these vivid flying dreams he's had throughout his life and how they relate to ancient Egyptian concepts like the Ka, the soul's double, and the Book of the Dead, which outlines the soul's journey after death.
He draws a fascinating connection between these ancient beliefs and the modern concept of astral projection, suggesting that the mind can separate from the body not just in death, but also during sleep or through specific magical practices.
So he's saying that astral projection isn't just some new age fad, it's rooted in ancient traditions.
Yes, he's showing how these ideas have been explored and practiced for centuries. He even brings in yogic terminology, talking about subtle bodies and how they play a role in astral projection.
Subtle bodies. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. In yogic philosophy, the subtle body refers to the energetic or spiritual layers of our being that exist beyond the physical body. There are several layers, each with its own unique functions and qualities. Astral projection is believed to involve the projection of one of these subtle bodies, allowing the consciousness to travel beyond the physical limitations of the body.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are some of the signs that someone might be experiencing astral projection?
Well, DuQuette describes some common experiences, like the feeling of floating or flying, tingling sensations, strange noises, and even encounters with what he calls terrors of the threshold, which are basically energetic guardians or entities that test your resolve as you attempt to leave your body.
That sounds a bit intense.
Yeah.
Are there any ways to prepare yourself for these kinds of experiences?
DuQuette recommends practicing relaxation techniques like meditation and visualization to help calm the mind and increase your awareness of your subtle energy body.
And how does this all tie back to DuQuette's personal experiences?
Well, he tells this hilarious story about accidentally projecting after eating too much broccoli quiche. He calls it a quiche-induced astral projection.
Wait, he projected because of quiche.
He attributes it to the combination of a heavy meal and the specific ingredients in the quiche, which he believes had certain energetic properties. He describes having this out-of-body experience where he encounters a golem-like creature in his non-existent closet and the hilarious consequences of trying to roar in the astral realm.
This is why I love DuQuette. He can go from discussing ancient Egyptian concepts to talking about quiche-induced astral projection and somehow make it all sound both profound and utterly ridiculous at the same time.
It's a gift, for sure. And it's a reminder that magic isn't always about serious rituals and pronouncements. Sometimes it's about embracing the unexpected and finding the humor in even the most bizarre experiences.
Well, I'm definitely hooked. Let's dive into some more of DuQuette's adventures in low magic.
Yeah, that story about the quiche-induced astral projection really highlights DuQuette's ability to find the magic in everyday life, even when it comes in the most unexpected forms.
Right. It's almost as if he's saying, hey, pay attention, because you never know where you might encounter something magical.
Exactly. And it's that open-mindedness and willingness to embrace the unexpected that makes him such a compelling guide to the world of low magic.
Now, I'm really curious about DuQuette's take on invocation. He talks about his childhood experiences with those cheesy invocations, the more formal Golden Dawn approach, and how he eventually found his own way to connect with a higher power.
Yeah, what's so refreshing about DuQuette's approach is that he encourages readers to find their own path, their own personal way of connecting with the divine. He's not dictating a specific set of beliefs or rituals. He's inviting you to explore and experiment until you find what resonates with you.
He talks about his connection with Ganesha, the Hindu deity, but he makes it clear that it's just one example, and that each person's journey to the great G, as he calls it, is unique.
And this brings us back to DuQuette's rejection of dogma. He doesn't see magic as bound by rigid rules or specific deities. For him, it's more about finding that authentic connection to something greater than yourself, whatever form that might take.
It's almost like he's saying, Don't just blindly follow the traditions. Find what works for you, what feels right in your gut.
Exactly. He's empowering readers to take ownership of their magical practice and tailor it to their individual needs and beliefs.
He also goes into the mechanics of invoking and banishing, explaining how to work with clockwise and counterclockwise movements to draw in or push away certain energies. And he even shares this simple ritual called the Dance of Ganesha that people can adapt for their own practice.
It's interesting how he blends these practical techniques with his personal experiences and insights. It's not just a dry recitation of magical principles, it's a lived experience that he's sharing with the reader.
And that's what makes it so engaging. You feel like you're on this journey with him, discovering these things alongside him. And speaking of journeys, he tells this really fascinating story about a rabbi who came to him seeking help to conceive a child.
This story really showcases DuQuette's compassion and his willingness to use his knowledge to help others.
The rabbi was deeply religious and had unwavering faith. He even suggested that DuQuette summon a goetic demon to help him and his wife conceive, but DuQuette felt uneasy about that approach.
Yeah, it's important to remember that goetic demons are traditionally associated with darker, more potentially dangerous forms of magic. DuQuette, even though he doesn't shy away from challenging magical work, seems to prefer working with more benevolent forces.
So what did he do instead?
He decided to consult the I Ching, an ancient Chinese divination system, to gain some insight into the situation. He meticulously describes the process of casting the yarrow stalks, interpreting the hexagrams, and understanding the symbolic language of the I Ching.
This is a great example of how DuQuette blends different magical systems and traditions into his practice. He's not limited to just one approach. He's drawing from various sources to find the most effective solution.
Exactly. He's like a master chef combining different ingredients to create a unique and flavorful dish.
So what did the I Ching reveal about the rabbi's situation?
The hexagrams pointed to the eventual birth of a son, but they also highlighted some underlying anxieties and the need for greater gentleness and adaptability in the couple's relationship.
It's interesting how the I Ching doesn't just give you a simple yes or no answer. It offers guidance and insights into the underlying energies at play.
And it often speaks in metaphors and symbols that require some interpretation and reflection.
It's not a quick fix. It's a process of understanding and growth.
Exactly. And that's what makes it such a powerful tool for personal transformation.
Now, one of the most memorable stories in the book has to be DuQuette's account of exorcising an entire school building. That's not something you hear every day.
Yeah, this story really highlights the darker side of magic, the realm where unseen forces can have a tangible impact on the physical world.
The request for the exorcism came from a Dominican nun, Sister Martha, who was the principal of Our Lady of Sorrows High School. It seems the school had been plagued by a string of tragedies and unsettling occurrences, leading many to believe it was cursed.
What's intriguing is how Sister Martha's strong Catholic faith played into her understanding of the situation. She believed in apostolic succession, this idea that a line of spiritual authority and power has been passed down from St. Peter to the present day.
So she saw the exorcism as something that required a specific kind of spiritual authority, not just anyone could do it.
Right, she needed someone who, in her view, had that legitimate connection to the divine.
But DuQuette's background is a bit more eclectic, to say the least. He doesn't exactly fit the traditional image of an exorcist.
That's what makes the story so fascinating. You have this clash of worldviews, this meeting of seemingly disparate traditions, but ultimately they find common ground in their shared belief in the power of the unseen world.
So how did DuQuette approach this exorcism? Did he just show up with holy water and a Bible?
Not quite. While he respected Sister Martha's beliefs, he also drew upon his own knowledge and experience. He started with an investigation, touring the school, speaking to staff and students, and using his pendulum to douse for negative energy.
So he was looking for clues, trying to understand the nature of the problem before jumping into any rituals.
He's a very methodical and thorough magician. He doesn't just rush into things. He takes the time to assess the situation and plan his approach carefully.
And what did he find during his investigation?
He discovered that the school had a long history of tragedies, accidents, and illnesses. He identified several individuals who seemed particularly affected by the negative energy, including Sister Catherine, a young nun who was suffering from severe anxiety and depression.
And he had a rather unsettling encounter with Larry, the IT guy, who gave off some strange vibes.
Yeah, Larry was definitely a memorable character, and as the story unfolds, you start to wonder if he might be playing a bigger role in the events at the school than anyone realizes.
And then there was the news of Sister Catherine's father passing away suddenly. the very night DuQuette and his friend Mark arrived. That added another layer of tragedy to the already heavy atmosphere.
It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the interconnectedness of all things.
So how does one go about exorcising an entire school building? Did he have to go room to room chanting and waving incense?
It was a bit more involved than that. DuQuette first had to prepare himself mentally and magically for the task. He drew upon his childhood memories and experiences with negativity, using them to strengthen his resolve.
So he's using his personal history as a source of power.
Exactly. He's drawing upon those moments of darkness and overcoming them to fortify himself for the challenge ahead.
That's a really interesting approach. It's like he's turning his past into a weapon against the forces of negativity.
He also used a pendulum to discover the demon's name, which turned out to be Slug, an unusual name to say the least.
Slug. Okay, I was not expecting that.
It's one of those moments where DuQuette's humor shines through. He doesn't take himself too seriously, even when dealing with potentially dangerous entities.
It's almost like he's saying, hey, even demons can have silly names.
Right, it's a reminder that even in the darkest of situations, there's always room for a bit of levity.
So once he had the demon's name, what did he do with it?
He used it to create a sigil, a magical symbol that represents and binds the demon. He describes this meticulous process of drawing and activating the sigil, incorporating Kabbalistic principles and numerology.
Kabbalah and numerology, those are pretty esoteric systems. Can you give us a quick rundown of what those are all about?
Sure, Kabbalah is a Jewish mystical tradition that explores the hidden meanings of the Torah and the nature of God. It involves a complex system of correspondences between letters, numbers, and spiritual concepts. Numerology is the study of the meanings of numbers and their relevance in our lives.
So DuQuette is weaving these ancient systems into his magical practice.
Absolutely. He's drawing upon a wide range of traditions and techniques, blending them into his own unique style of magic.
And how did these systems play into the creation of the sigil?
Well, DuQuette noticed that the numbers 93 and 333 kept appearing during his preparations. In Kabbalah, these numbers have specific meanings related to divine will and spiritual transformation. He took this as a sign that this exorcism was as much about his own personal growth as it was about helping the school.
It's like he's recognizing that magical work is often a two-way street, that it can have a profound impact on both the practitioner and the recipient.
And that personal transformation is often a necessary component of effective magical work.
So once he had the sigil, what was the next step? Did he confront the demon head-on?
Actually, he decided to conjure the demon at home and then transport the entire activated temple with himself and Slug inside to the school.
Wait, he transported the demon? How's that even possible?
He describes it as a very intense and challenging experience requiring a tremendous amount of focus and energy. He basically created a portable magical space, a kind of bubble that contained the demon and all the necessary ritual elements, and then willed it to move to the school.
Okay, that's some next-level magic right there.
It's definitely one of the more mind-bending aspects of the story, and it highlights DuQuette's mastery of magical techniques.
So once they arrived at the school, what happened next?
DuQuette and Mark systematically cleansed the building room by room, banishing any lingering negativity and concentrating all the negative energy into the vice principal's office for the final confrontation.
So he was basically gathering all the darkness into one spot, like herding cattle into a pen.
It's a classic magical strategy. Isolate the problem and then deal with it in a controlled environment.
And how did he go about banishing the negativity from each room?
He describes using a combination of prayers, visualizations, and incantations, tailoring his approach to the specific energy of each space. He even used his almond wand, a traditional magical tool, to direct the flow of energy.
And what about Larry, the IT guy? Did he make any more appearances during all of this?
Of course, Larry seemed to have a knack for showing up at the most inconvenient moments, much to DuQuette's annoyance. He even interrupted DuQuette at a crucial moment during the cleansing ritual, claiming that he needed to check the wiring in the room.
It's like Larry was drawn to the negative energy.
Yeah.
Almost as if he was feeding off of it.
It definitely adds to the mystery of the situation, and you start to wonder about Larry's true nature and his role in all of this.
So they finally concentrated all the negative energy into the vice principal's office. What happened then? Did DuQuette just unleash a barrage of magical attacks on Slug?
Well, when he finally confronted the demon, it appeared as a magpie, a small black and white bird often associated with trickery and mischief.
A magpie. Not exactly the terrifying demonic entity I was imagining.
It's one of those moments where DuQuette subverts your expectations. He reminds us that appearances can be deceiving, and that even the most seemingly innocuous creatures can possess hidden power.
So what did the demon do? Did it try to attack DuQuette or tempt him with promises of power?
Actually, it started asking some very unsettling questions about the nature of good and evil, challenging DuQuette's beliefs and motivations.
Oh, so like the demon was trying to get inside his head, sow seeds of doubt and confusion.
Exactly. It was a psychological attack, an attempt to undermine DuQuette's confidence and weaken his resolve. And it worked, to some extent. DuQuette started questioning himself, his faith, his reasons for even being there.
Wow, that's got to be a terrifying experience. Facing your own inner demons while battling a literal demon at the same time.
It was a moment of crisis for DuQuette, a test of his faith and his commitment to his magical path.
So how did he get through it? Did he find a way to silence the demon's whispers?
He realized that he was getting caught up in the demon's game, allowing it to distract him from his purpose. He decided to abandon any attempts at redemption or philosophical debate and focus solely on banishing the demon.
It's like he's saying, I'm not here to argue theology. I'm here to get rid of this negativity.
Right. He recognized that sometimes action is more powerful than words, and that sometimes you just have to do what needs to be done, even if it means setting aside your personal doubts and anxieties.
So how do we finally banish Slug?
He unleashed a barrage of Solomonic curses, ancient incantations designed to bind and expel negative entities. He describes it as a visceral and exhausting experience, but ultimately he felt the demon's energy dispersing.
So he won the battle. But did he win the war? Was the school truly free of negativity?
The aftermath of the exorcism is a bit ambiguous. While DuQuette felt that he had successfully banished Slug, he also recommended some feng shui adjustments for the staff area to help maintain a positive energy flow.
Feng shui, that's the Chinese art of placement, right?
Yeah.
It's about arranging your environment to create a harmonious flow of energy.
Exactly. And DuQuette often incorporates feng shui principles into his magical practice, recognizing the importance of creating a supportive and balanced environment.
So he's not just focusing on the spiritual realm. He's also paying attention to the physical environment and how it can influence our well-being.
He's a very holistic magician, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
And what about Larry, the IT guy? Did DuQuette ever figure out what his deal was?
That's one of the lingering questions of the story. DuQuette expresses his ongoing concern about Larry's influence, suggesting that he might be more than just a quirky tech guy.
It's like Larry represents that shadow side, that lingering potential for negativity that can't be completely eradicated.
And it's a reminder that magical work is often ongoing, that it's not a one-time fix, but a continuous process of vigilance and maintenance.
It's like weeding a garden. You can pull out the big weeds, but you still have to be on the lookout for those pesky little ones that try to sprout up.
Exactly. And sometimes you have to learn to live with a certain level of imperfection, recognizing that complete control is an illusion.
DuQuette's experiences with exorcism really highlight the complexities of magic. It's not always a clear-cut battle between good and evil. Sometimes it's a messy and ambiguous process that forces you to confront your own shadows and limitations.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is about influencing the world around you.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored DuQuette's unique approach to low magic, his personal experiences with rituals, spirits, and even quiche-induced astral projection. And we've delved into the darker side of magic with his account of the school exorcism. What are some of the key takeaways from all of this?
I think one of the most important lessons is that magic isn't just about performing spells and summoning entities. It's about intention, it's about willpower, and it's about cultivating a deep connection to something greater than yourself.
And it's about finding the magic in the everyday, those moments of synchronicity and wonder that often go unnoticed.
DuQuette reminds us that magic isn't something reserved for a select few. It's accessible to anyone who's willing to open their mind and heart to the possibilities.
And it's not about escaping reality. It's about engaging with it in a more meaningful and empowered way.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape our reality, to influence our lives and the lives of those around us through our thoughts, our actions, and our intentions.
DuQuette's journey through low magic is a reminder that we are all magical beings capable of creating extraordinary experiences in our ordinary lives.
It's an invitation to embrace our own unique magic, to explore the hidden depths of our being, and to discover the infinite potential that lies within each of us.
It's a call to adventure, a challenge to step outside our comfort zones and explore the vast and mysterious realms of magic that await us.
And it's a reminder that the journey itself is often more important than the destination, and that the true magic lies in the process of discovery and transformation.
What resonated most with you? Did any of Lon's stories spark your own curiosity about hidden magic in your life? We'd love to hear your thoughts.